All right, we're going to get started. I have to make sure that we start kind of as soon as possible because we're going to go over a lot today. So, for those of you who do not know, this is Canva Unleashed. We will be starting our program talking about design principles because I think that is very important to understand. For a lot of people, that is the missing portion of why Canva might be a little bit difficult for them. Let me see, sorry, Oop, admit. But before we jump into all of that, I want to remind you, and it was announced this morning via email and Facebook Marketplace, not Facebook Marketplace, our Facebook group, about our Forgotten Soldiers Drive and Packing event. So this kind of a scenario is going to actually take place in two different portions. From now until November 6th, we are doing a drive for donations to Forgotten Soldiers. For those of you who do not know what Forgotten Soldiers is a nonprofit that sends care packages to deployed U.S. soldiers all around the world who do not have families, so they're not receiving care package regularly. Very, very great nonprofit that we are working with this year for the holidays. And our packing date is going to be Wednesday, November 6th. We're going to have two sessions, a morning session, which is 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., and an afternoon session, which is 12 to 2. The packing really doesn't take 2 hours. However, we will have a vendor join us for each session and provide breakfast or lunch, depending upon which session you join. On your screen on the bottom left is the registry for the morning session. And on the bottom right is registration for the afternoon session. So please take a moment to join us. All right, so we're gonna just dive right in with our goals for today. Our first goal is actually design concepts. We will not even look at Canva for the first 30 minutes. I think it's very important to understand design principles and concepts so that you can know the how to achieve your goal. So we have the resource, the what we're using to get there is Canva, but how do we do that? What are we looking for? How do we identify our goals and understand how we achieve them? Then we're going to go to implementation in Canva, learn how Canva makes it easy to implement the design principle. I do have the timestamps because I'm going to be married to the timing. Very important today because there's a lot to cover. And then our third section where you get an opportunity to share your work. This is a workshop style monthly event that we will have, and it will be ongoing, where you get to share whatever it is that you're working on, and we get to just kind of help and jump in, tell you how amazing your design skills are, and hopefully make you feel more confident and support your goal of creating that design and getting it out to your viewer. To begin with, the biggest thing that I want to mention that's very important is identifying your design goals. It's something that we are missing quite often when we're working on designs. I think it's hard to kind of perceive what is the end result that you want that design to do. So the way we want to approach this is by asking yourself, what is the message I want to communicate? What am I trying to get across? What's the entire purpose of this design? What is the messaging? What action do I want the viewer to take? Do I want them to reach out to me for a showing? Do I want them to come to my house? Do I want them to contact me? It's very important to identify that goal up front. And how do I want the viewer to feel when they engage with my design? Do I want them to be excited? Do I want them to be inspired? Am I just giving them information? All of that has to kind of be decided up front. Some of the goals that you may kind of come up with, especially in respect to real estate, is informing. I'm informing them about some essential details about a property, the price, so on and so forth. Persuasion, or what we call a call to action. I'm encouraging the viewer to take some sort of action, like scheduling a tour or making an offer or coming to view my property. Engaging, create interest through appealing visuals, compelling descriptions, make the viewer want to learn more, maybe reach out to you, or inspiring, evoke a sense of belonging, aspiration, engaging their emotions, and showcasing how property can enhance the viewer's lifestyles or fulfill their dreams. These are kind of things that you want to decide up front so that it will inform what you are making. Now that we have a goal of what I want my design to do for the viewer, it makes it a lot clearer about how I'm going to make that design come to life. There we go. Uh, we went too fast. Okay, so our very first thing that we're talking about are what are design principles. Design principles are fundamental concepts used to organize and arrange elements in a visually appealing way. These are rules and guides that we can use in our mind when we are creating designs on how we want to arrange the elements within the design so they make the most sense for the viewer. You will hear me talk about the viewer quite often throughout this program, because at the end of the day, it's the viewer who we are engaging, right? Whether it is an open house sheet or it is a social media post. What are we trying to communicate? What do we need them to do? Design principles and utilizing these rules and guidelines will really help you. The purpose of design principles is to ensure that designs are not only aesthetically pleasing, because that's great, but also communicate our message very effectively, making them easier to understand and interact with. A really cool Canva tip, hold on, let me do that. A really cool Canva tip is mastering these principles and learning how to use Canva to achieve them. Canva is just a tool. It's not everything. A bigger piece of this is understanding what we need it to do first before we learn how to get it to do that. And achieve them allows them to transfer even simple designs into professional looking visuals. That's exactly what we need. Why? Let's do this. Oh, there's so much animation on these. All right, so our first design principle that we will talk about is alignment. Alignment, the design principle of alignment is creating order and clarity. Aligning elements kind of gives the viewer an idea of where to start looking at a design. Where do their eyes land? Where do I begin reading? What am I supposed to pay attention to? So on and so forth. Alignment ensures that your elements are positioned in a way that they visually connect with each other, forming clean lines and shapes. It organizes your designs to make it easier to follow. Just so you guys know, and I will share it in the chat at the end of the class, I do have a Google Drive with this entire presentation, a couple of sheets that I'm going to show you as well, a couple of little handouts and some other fun stuff for you to keep and quote unquote take home. For all of the slides for our design principles, they're going to be laid out in the same way, right? So I'm actually engaging in some design principles with my own slide that you're looking at here. As you can see, the words on the left are all aligned to the left. They kind of give you an idea of the order that we're supposed to be reviewing the information with and give you an idea of what's important to look at. And some of the sections that you're going to see is alignment or the name of the principle, what that principle means, and the viewer's perception, because we did say in the beginning that we'll be talking a lot about the viewer and what we need them to understand and how they might perceive what it is that we've created, right? So for viewers' perceptions, the design principles for alignment are fundamental concepts used to organize and arrange elements. They guide how different aspects of a design work together to create cohesive and engaging visual experience. A Canva tip for alignment specifically, Canva gives you this really, really cool guidelines. Either solid guidelines will give you alignment for horizontal and vertical alignment, dead center across or up and down. And dotted line alignment or guidelines will give you alignment in relation to other elements on the canvas. I will show you a little bit more about that when we actually jump into Canva a little later on. Hierarchy. Hierarchy is really, really important. It lets the person know what I'm supposed to pay attention to in this design. What is the most important thing I am looking at in this design? And hierarchy is actually at play in this slide as well. Hierarchy is the arrangement of elements to show their importance. This can be achieving through size, color, or placement, directing the viewer to the most important part first. For you guys, I put that this usually refers to text, right? There is a way to utilize hierarchy with other elements, shapes, colors, etc. However, that's really, really very advanced and hard to master. So I think hierarchy is easiest explained in regards to text. For instance, at the top of the slide, hierarchy is the largest word here because this entire slide is about that. So that's what I want you to pay attention to. Additionally, you'll notice that I've colored my subheaders and they're larger than the body of the text. This is also hierarchy at play, letting you know, hey, this is what you're going to read about in the paragraph below. Additionally, at the bottom of every slide, you'll see a really simplified way to kind of perceive what we're learning about. People tend to view larger, bolder, and more colorful elements as more important. Very, very true. If I see a page and something is yellow or pink and everything else is black and white, that's where my eye is going to go to. White space, sometimes referred to as negative space. Thank you, Sergio. I appreciate it. Did I do this? Maybe you did. Sorry about that. White space, sometimes referred to as negative space. White space is really the space in between elements. Really good way to think about this. More white space means breathing room for your design, allowing for key elements to stand out. Very, very important um, perception, because I think a lot of the time what we will do is we will pack in a whole lot of information into our design because we think that we want to make sure the viewer or the person or the recipient needs to know as much as possible. But what ends up happening is if the design is overpacked with information, the viewer doesn't know what to look at, right? They don't know what's very important about the design or what the message you're trying to get across is. And a lot of the time it makes them disengage because it's just clustered and they don't know what to focus on. Proximity really refers to placing related elements close to each other or farther away. A viewer's perception of white space, they don't really necessarily see the white space or the negative space, but what they do see is whatever element you want them to focus on really stands out and they see it very clearly. So this is almost a subliminal thing. It's something that the viewer doesn't really see or understand or perceive. All they'll see is big block letters and a lot of space around it. They won't know that the white space or the negative space, quote unquote, is what's important there. Balance. Balance refers to the distribution of visual weight in the design. This is a tricky one because I think when we perceive balance, we perceive equality and symmetry. But balance doesn't necessarily mean everything is the same on all sides. It just means that you don't have all elements of your design pushed to one side and nothing on the other side. That's the easiest way to describe it. A balanced design feels stable, making it easy for the viewer to engage with the content. It also really helps by guiding the viewer's eye and helping the viewer understand what I'm looking at first, where I'm going next, and where I'm supposed to end. A well-balanced design feels organized, stable, making the viewer feel comfortable and engaged. And an unbalanced design can make the viewer feel uneasy and disoriented, and therefore it'll make them disengage, not paying attention to your design at all. This is another place where we would really, really rely heavily on Canva's grid and alignment tools to help distribute your elements evenly and achieve balance. Contrast. Contrast is really, really important. As a matter of fact, I've used a little bit of contrast in this slide, well, a lot, but in my quote at the top, strong contrast makes key elements pop, guiding the viewer's focus to what matters most. A really great way to employ contrast is with your color design. We always want to use our main colors, which typically, especially in real estate, are going to be black and white, maybe blue and white, so on and so forth. But a pop color can really, really, really help people zoom in to what you want them to focus on. Contrast is the difference between two or more elements of design. You can create contrast through color, size, or shape. I think a lot of the time we consider contrast, we consider it as color only, but you can do it with size and shape as well, or texture to make certain elements stand out. A viewer's perception of high contrast makes elements pop and immediately grabs attention, while low contrast can make a design feel muted and less engaging. This is another element that you would really consider. Hey, what are my goals with this design, right? And how do I want the viewer to feel? Do I want them to feel excited? Maybe I'm using brighter color, stronger contrast, brighter pops of color to do that. Great Canva tip is to experiment with Canva's color palette and contrast suggestions to make important elements stand out. Repetition. Repetition is lets your viewers recognize patterns and creates a cohesive design that feels professional and intentional. When we're thinking of repetition, we're really thinking of repeating the same colors throughout the design, repeating the same fonts throughout the design, so it feels cohesive. It also helps the viewer understand which things go together. So for instance, my headers here are all written in the same exact font. Subconsciously, that's letting you, the viewer, know that, hey, these are all headers. These are all telling me what's coming next, and they're important for me to view. Unity. Unity is really a collection of everything we talked about. There's several different ways to create unity in your design. One of them is actually repetition. If I'm using the same font throughout my design, it unifies all of the headers, all of the body type that I'm using, so on and so forth. I can also create unity with size and shape as well as color. Unity is a principle that ensures all elements in a design work together to create a sense of completeness. It can be achieved through the consistent use of colors, shapes, and styles. A unified design feels more professional, more polished, allowing the viewer to engage with the content without distractions. A really, really good Canva tip that I always use it, because most of my designs are for Layer, and Layer does have this intact, this unifying theme that I'm going to say. But one thing is I would use a maximum of 3 colors. Choose a limited color palette and stick to a few fonts to enhance the unity of your design. For instance, the design that you're looking at right now on your screen is unified by its color palette, its font choices, and other elements. But what I highly recommend for your design is to limit it to 3 colors. It gets messy after that. Just saying, that's something that I truly, truly believe. It gets a little tricky at that point. Usually the 3 colors we want to use are our main color. That will be a more muted professional color like black or blue. A secondary color might be white or gray. And then a tertiary color or a third color might be that pop of color like a bright yellow, a bright pink, so on and so forth. But I wouldn't exceed that because then it becomes confusing. One thing I forgot to mention is variety. I think a lot of the time when we're talking and using words like unity and balance, a lot of the time it makes us think that everything has to be identical. However, unity doesn't exclude variety. Maybe if you look at the picture of the poster for variety, they're all circles and they're all white. That is unity at play. However, we do have variety because all of the white circles are different sizes. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Unity brings together all of our design elements, making the project feel complete and harmonious. Unity does not mean that there is no variety. So I'm going to open this back up really quickly. I think that is my last slide. It is. Okay, wonderful. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment while I switch on over to Canva. Now we're going to jump into Canva right now, which is going to be wonderful. And before I go forward, does anybody have any questions for me at all? Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, so we're going to jump into Canva. Ooh, I'm kind of right on time. I'm not really on time, but that's okay. All righty. So, one of the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things about Lair is that they create all of your week to week marketing designs for social media for you. Now, if you are the type of person that is ready to jump into social media, this is a great tool because not only, and I'm going to share, can I share the screen? Okay, not only do they share the designs, but they also give you a suggested caption. It's quite literally a no-brainer. So hold on, let me jump back into Canva. Okay. So that is a very awesome thing. Now, when you receive these designs, you can simply upload them to your social media, copy and paste the caption from the email that you received, and post it. However, if you wanted to, you can also edit it in Canva for your own branding. Now, this is one of the designs that is shared in the weekly social media packet. And we're going to look at some of the elements that we discussed at play in this design. To begin with, I didn't even edit it already, but some of the elements, some of the design principles have already been started here for me. So on the left-hand side, we have an image. On a right-hand side, we have white space, which we love. The design is very balanced. You have an image on this side and nothing other than text on this side, but it still creates visual interest because you have half a picture and verbiage on this side. Very, very cool. We also have our logo down here and you can edit it. Now, before we jump into editing it, I'm going to give you a quick tour of the Canva screen and all of the tools that you can use here very quickly. So on our left-hand side, we have what I call a drawer. A drawer in a design platform is usually some resources that can be hidden and pulled out when you need them. So we have a drawer of all of our resources over here to the left. The top applet is called design. Design has two spaces within it. It has templates, which we love. I recommend using Canva templates all the time. There is no need to reinvent the wheel and try and create a design from scratch. You can very, very easily use the search box up here and find a design that kind of works for you and edit that template. So for instance, a really great way to utilize the search portion up here is by using a descriptor word or an adjective. If you are in real estate, which we all are, we can simply put real estate and it'll pull up templates that are real estate related. However, you can also use descriptor words or adjectives. For instance, we can say bold real estate, and it will pull up designs that are only bold real estate design, right? We can pull up elegant, we can pull up pretty, we can pull up feminine. But what I encourage you to do is explore using some of these adjectives in Canva to kind of sift through the templates that they have available. To the right of templates, we have styles. This is where it gets a lot of fun. We have styles. Styles refers to color combinations and font combinations. Before I do any of this, there's one thing I want to show you. I'm going to draw your attention to the main space, main design space. One of my pro tips in Canva is to never work on the original design. I always highly recommend going to the top right corner of your design, hovering over the middle icon. It is called duplicate page. Duplicate your page and work on the duplicate. Why? Because reason being, what if I do some fun things on this design and I end up hating it? And I've done far too much to utilize the undo button in the top left corner. It's great to keep the original design. Now, if you're a person who's new to Canva, I might even take it a step farther and lock the design all together. At the top right corner of any design in Canva in the design workspace is a lock. It will lock the page and prevent you from engaging with any of the elements here or changing them. This is really, really important if you want to keep the template as is, or if you're not sure about the changes that you want to make. Additionally, if it's a template that you use repeatedly, for instance, at the beginning of the call, you might have heard Mila and I talking about her newsletter. She is sending out a monthly newsletter and she's going to use it every single month. So, what I encourage her to do is her first one that she created is now a template. Now, any new ones that we want to create, we're going to make a duplicate and we're going to only edit the duplicate so that we can keep all of our original design elements from our original design intact. Now back over to the design draw and the styles tab. Styles tab really allows you to play around with color, formatting, so on and so forth. This is a great opportunity if you love the layered designs, but you want to add your own branding and color to it, you can do that right here. So for instance, at the top, we have Layer Realty. So for instance, I have Layer Realty set as a brand kit in my Canva, and I can go on and add any of those colors to this design as well. However, we're going to scroll down and just look at combinations, color palettes, and font sets. Combinations are going to give you combos of color palettes and fonts together. So let's click, first of all, some of these color palettes I don't love, but you can make your own. That's a different class. Let's say I want to change it to this color and font combo. I don't love it personally. However, I'm really just showing you how it works. Additionally, let's say you love the color combo, but you didn't like the way they landed in your design. If you hover over the combinations portion, there's a little switcheroo arrow situation, and all it's going to do when you press it is continually move the colors around to different elements. Let's try it with a different palette. Oh, that's a great palette. Very cool. So now I can keep switching the colors around, so on and so forth. Additionally, below that, you have color palettes by themselves. They are just color palettes. There are no fonts. So let's say I want to change it to this color palette altogether, or this one. Just so you know, a reason the background isn't changing is because this is actually a textured white background behind here, just so you know. But the color is changing in the background, just so you know. Wonderful. Next thing, we have elements. And before I move on to that, let me make sure I share something with you as well in the chat. Let me grab it. Give me 1 second. I am going to grab it really quickly. So basically, I made a Google Drive folder for all of you. And it basically has this entire presentation and a few handouts that I wanted to share with you. Okay, wonderful. So I found it. I'm just dropping the link there. Copy, share, copy link. Okay. I'm going to pop it into the chat right now. Wonderful. What you will find in this Google Drive is a whole bunch of stuff that is going to be really helpful to you, and a handout that I shared as well. The handout is going to go over all of the terminology that we've talked about. So don't worry if it's kind of all over the place and you're not sure if you remember everything that I'm sharing. Not a big problem at all. Elements, the reason why I brought that up is because there is a page in there that is called Design Elements. It's on the Canva Unleashed pro tip sheet. There you go. Design elements are anything you can think of that you would incorporate into a design. Let me make that a little slimmer. It can be images, it can be shapes, it can be text, it can be absolutely anything that you think of in a design. The Elements tab in Canva shows you all of the types of elements that you can find here. I know most of you are not beginner Canva users, but we're just reviewing some of this for everyone. So elements can be anything, like I said, shapes, graphics, so on and so forth. You can feel free to explore that here. Again, this is a great place where you can use descriptors. I always recommend that you use, like I said before, adjectives and what you're looking for. Let's say for this, I am looking for a soul sign that I would like to add to my design. You can do that. Now, maybe I want it to be pink or elegant. And Canva will produce what it thinks I'm looking for, and I just have to kind of go through it. Text, we already have a really good idea of text, so on and so forth. Branding, this is where it gets fun. If you have a logo, if you have brand colors that you would like to use, this is where you would upload it. And then after you have created these brand elements, you can apply them to any design that you have and you want. Let's say, so this design comes with a black logo. Let's say instead I want to use the regular layer logo, which is blue and like ochre or gold. This is where I would grab it from, and this is where you can share it to. Uploads, of course, this is where you're going to find anything and everything you've uploaded to Canva. Draw feature, I'll be honest, this is the least useful feature here. Unless you are working on a tablet with a pen, I highly recommend never using the draw feature ever. There's a lot of elements and shapes that you can play with. The draw feature is very tough to master, just sharing. Any projects that I've worked on that I want to jump over to. Additionally, Canva has a bunch of applets that you can add to it as well. Again, these are a little bit higher level. We don't have to focus on them today. We're really just focused more on design principles, so on and so forth. So any questions so far? Please ask them. We're cool? Wonderful. Love it, love it, love it. All right, so the next thing I'm going to talk about are some of my rules for Canva. Let me stop sharing this, and I am going to share the document that is here. Wonderful. Let's share. Wow. I'm going to share screen. One moment, sorry guys. You know what? I will just share it in Canva. That'll make it better. Share one. Okay. So on my screen, what I created for you, and this is in your document that I shared with you via the link. Here are some general tips for Canva. First of all, undo. Very quick way to undo any action is Control Z. Now, this does not work if you are using a Mac. If you're using a Mac, I'm very sorry, I don't speak that language. If you are using any other type of computer, it would be Control Z. So let's do exactly that. Let's go back to my Canva design and I will show you what I mean. Let's say I put this up here by accident. Instead of you trying to move it back and forth, what I recommend is you hitting Control Z to get it back to where it was. Best way to do it. Make a copy. We talked about duplicating your design before making any major changes to keep the original intact. We already talked about that. Guidelines. The solid lines in Canva, horizontal and vertical, are the center of the page, horizontal and vertical. Dotted guidelines are used for alignment relative to other elements. So let me show you how that works as well. So for instance, I am moving this design around. Let me go to another page. Wait, nope. Let me open another design. Let's say I want to bring this layer design and I want to center it. This is the center vertical line, and make sure you're aligned in the center of your design, whatever that design is. If I drag it down and up, we have a horizontal line that appears as well. Now, in this version, we're not going to get any dotted lines because there are no other elements on the screen for Canva to say, hey, you're in the middle of this other element. However, In our above example, we have this. So let's say I want to center it on wondering, or the bottom box here, Layer Realty. The dotted line is showing me that I am centered for the two elements above and below the element I'm engaging with. Very cool. Next thing, we have distance measurement. This is a very cool thing that I didn't learn for a long time. So let's say I'm having a hard time seeing if the element that I'm playing with is fully centered. On a keyboard that is not Mac, again, I'm very sorry. You can simply engage the element that you want to use, click Alt, and see the distance in pixels from left to right and top to bottom. As we can see, I'm not centered on the bottom, on the vertical axis. So I can simply, this is another great thing to use. If you want to make small movements and changes in your design elements, one thing I recommend is clicking the element, Control Z, clicking the element you want to engage, hit Alt, and using the down and up arrows on your keyboard to make small movements. Because sometimes when we move an element with our mouse, it's too big of a movement and it just moved it into another space that we didn't want it. Use the up and down arrows to align your item if it's just small movements that you need to make. Duplicate elements, press Control D. On a Mac, it's CMD plus D to duplicate a selected element. I think I love keyboard shortcuts just like the next person. However, I think it's just easy to do one of two things. Anytime you engage with an element, you get this miniature sub menu above the element, giving you some limited options about how you can engage. One of those options is an icon that means duplicate. I recommend that as opposed to a keyboard shortcut. Another thing you can do is as always, you can right click, copy, right click, paste. Okay, you have a couple of ways that you can go about sharing that. Group elements, select multiple elements together that you want to group together. This is a really good idea, and I'm going to show you a different way than on the paper. So let's suppose I like where this element and this element are, and although I want to change other things in the design, I like where they are in relation to one another. What I recommend is the following. You click one element, press and hold Shift on your keyboard, and click the other element, and it will choose those elements together. One, and why isn't it choosing this? There we go, two. And the top in the sub menu, we have a new feature that we didn't have when we were choosing a solo element. This is called group. Now, when I move my elements around, Control Z, see, Control Z is the best thing ever. Now, when I move these elements around, they will move together as one element, which I love. I think this is helpful. When you've already decided a portion of your design is what you love and you want to keep it exactly that way, you just group them together and you move them as one. Another very cool way to group is by clicking position. Position in your top right corner will help you, is another great way to move elements around on your canvas. Additionally, they give you another dimension to move these elements around with. So when you're thinking about your design, I want you to envision a hamburger, right? Where it's stacked. You have a top bun, you have your toppings, you have your cheese, you have your burger patty, you have your bottom bun. That is what your design is like. Although we're viewing it as like almost a piece of paper, these designs, these elements are actually stacked on top of each other. And I'm going to show you exactly where you can see that. So if I click an element, I get this additional menu on top. We get a lot of little menus. You get this miniature menu down here, very close to the element. And then you get this bigger menu up here that really just gives you a guideline of all the different ways that you can interact with this element that you've chosen. So I'm going to click position, and we've got a couple of options, right? We have two tabs. One is called arrange and one is called layers. Arrange is where we can either say align to the left, align to the top, align to the center, Or let's say I have an element and I want to put this element behind this element, right? But I want the layer realty and the little black box to go in the back. Just giving you, showing you functionality. I know it's hideous, don't worry. So let's say I want the layer realty to go all the way to the back. I can click position in the top right corner. I can use the arrange tab and say backwards or all the way to the back. If I don't like it, I can say forward all the way to the front. Now, Canva is very cool because it gives you another way to kind of visualize this movement, which literally is stacked like a burger. So for instance, we have layer at the top of our burger. We have our background here. We have all of our elements kind of stacked in this way. This is a really, really great way to visualize your elements because maybe, for instance, you have an element that is behind the picture and you're like, well, what? I want it to be on top of this picture, right? Or I want it to be behind. You can either go into layers, move the layer up and down where you see fit in your burger, or you can move it back to where it was. Very cool. So let's jump back over here. Design basics. We talked a little bit about this in the beginning. Color limit. Keep your design limited to 3 colors. It doesn't have to be, but I think it's an easier way and simpler way to kind of perceive our design. And if we can work within guidelines, it makes creating designs in Canva that much easier. Font choices. I always recommend limiting your font choices to 3 fonts. I have 3 fonts going on in here. Now, when we're talking about fonts, just because we're limiting our fonts doesn't necessarily mean that we have to limit the color of those fonts. We have to limit the color to the amount of colors we've chosen, yes. But we can engage those fonts in different ways. For instance, at the top here, you can see pro tip cheat sheet. This is actually, wait, where is it? There we go. These fonts are the same exact fonts. Unleash and Pro Tip Sheets are the same font. I just treated them differently. One is pink, one is white, so it makes it a little bit easier. I also recommend, this is not written in my cheat sheet, that body fonts, body text, right? Not header text or anything like that. Body fonts are very limited to very modern, classical office business fonts because these are much more intricate. There's a lot more to read here. You don't want to do any fun fonts in this area. You want to keep it super duper basic so that the person, the viewer reading it understands and can read it clearly. Image use, image sourcing, very, 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 very important. Avoid using random images from the internet. It is quite illegal. So let's say you want to do on your website or your social media a guide to West Palm Beach. You cannot simply go online and download a photo of West Palm Beach. You have to either take the picture yourself or you have to go into Canva, into Elements. This is another cool thing about Canva. And let's say I want West Palm Beach photos. One of the elements subsection is photos, and they give you free photos provided by Pexels. This is perfectly fine. Now this is a free photo that I can use in my design. Do not go online. Please and please and please and thank you. Transparent backgrounds, download images with transparent background. Why is this important, right? Let's say I want to do, let me see a picture that I've uploaded myself. Let's take this picture of Alma, for example. We all love Alma, right? Let's say I want to use this picture or my picture in a design. The best way to go about it is to remove the background so that the image can kind of be free floating in your design. Now, I really recommend this if you are putting your own picture on a design, right? This is not necessarily for like a larger picture. Before we were talking about images of West Palm. I wouldn't employ a background remover for that. However, I would employ it if it is a picture of myself that I am incorporating to a design. So for instance, for many realtors at the bottom of the design, you want to have your name, you want to have your email, your phone. And of course, I always recommend adding a headshot so people go, oh, I know her, I know him, I know them, which is what we love. We always want to do background remover when we do this. Now, very, very good point to point out. Background remover is only available if you are utilizing Canva Pro. You cannot use it in free Canva, regrettably. Canva Pro is very cheap. I'm a huge advocate of Canva. It's my favorite tool in addition to ChatGPT. We all know this. If you want to, I think Canva Pro is a great addition. If not, you can 100% just download and use all of the social media marketing things you get on a weekly basis. What else do we have here? We talked about design principles. This is going to be available for you. It is in the packet and the link that I shared with you as well. We talked about design elements, text, fonts, sizes, colors that convey your message, image, high quality visuals that enhance your design that are either yours or you got in a good way, which is either free downloads with Canvas photos, icons, symbols that represent ideas and add visual interest. I love using icons, and backgrounds, colors and images that complement the design and set the tone. When we're talking about tone, we're talking about emotional tone. Going all the way back to the beginning, the goal of how we want the viewer to engage. How do we want them to feel? A lot of the time, that tone is decided by the colors and the images that you use in your design. Understanding the viewer. We talked about the viewer quite often today. The definition of viewer is the individual who interacts with your design. It's also the person you intend the design for. For instance, if you're doing an open house, maybe your design is for buyers, right? Or maybe your design is for neighbors to see that you're listing a property in their area. Their perception, their preferences, and expectations will influence how they interpret the elements and the messages you present. Another thing I want to really, really make very clear, you are not your own viewer, right? Because then that leads to visual biases in your designs, right? Because then you're thinking, well, I would like to see this. I would like to do that. You are not your viewer. When you think about the person who is receiving your design or who will potentially view your design, think about it more from a demographic standpoint. Is it a buyer? Is it a seller? And what are the needs of that demographic? Therefore, will influence your design. Great. Now we are on to the portion of our class where I talk about your designs. Does anybody have a design that they are working on and would like to share? It is a safe space. Rayla.
You want me to share?
Yes, please, please,
I
please,
actually
please.
have it. I actually have it on paper.
Okay. Oh, I love it. You know what? I think I have your design in Canva here, and I can share it
And
on.
everybody, you have just one attempt to guess who helped me.
I love that. Okay. So this is Mila's design, right? Mila and I had a meeting yesterday where we sat down and we talked about the Roar Report. Now, Mila's goals were for her viewer to receive this in an email. As you know, the Roar Report is a couple of pages long, so she wanted to condense it and she wanted to also make it specialized just to her and brand it just to her. So we were able to download the Roar Report that Lair provides monthly, which is awesome, and edit it. And we have so many of our design principles at work. She did such a great job with this. I'm so proud of you. It is gorgeous. Good job, Mila. Virtual high five. Boop. So let's talk about some of the design elements that we have at play in Mila's design. First of all, before we even get there, this adorable picture of her in the top right corner is awesome because we were able to use background remover on it, and now it incorporated her image a lot more organic into the design as opposed to putting a square image on top of the design. We want everything to look organic and cohesive, right? Another great thing to point out here is that we have 3 colors at play. We kind of have 4, but the 4th color is really just a lighter version of our 3rd color, right? So our 3 colors are, of course, going to be the dark blue, the gold and the white. Or you could think of it as the page is always going to be white if you have no intention of doing a full colored page. The page is always going to be white. So maybe I'm not considering that as a third color. Maybe my colors here are dark blue, gold, and light blue. As you can see, she's also using hierarchy as well, right? We have our big Aurora report at the top, the roar that opens more doors. And we have all of our headers larger than the rest of our tags. Very good use of hierarchy as well. We also have alignment at play. And this is funny because this tells me Mila has some amazing design instinct, because alignment was one of the biggest things she was focused on yesterday. So you're a designer for sure. We also have a couple of other things going on here. We have the future is brighter with Mila Snyder at the top, which we absolutely love. For those of you who do not know, this is Mila's slogan, it's her tagline. I love it. But it's at the top. It's a little smaller than our header, but it's still bigger than everything else, and it's separate with its own background, letting us know this is very important for us to look at. What do you think? How do you think? What do you think, Mila, about this altogether? Do you like it? Do you love it?
I emailed, mass emailed to previously also, but yesterday, first time I got 3 response.
Nice. I'm really happy about that. And we went through the row report and we chose some sections that she really liked. She really liked the quiz question. And again, this is really talking about going back to the beginning of the class, talking about what is our goal, right? What do we want the viewer to do when they see our design? And she got some results, right? Because she had a very clear goal. She wants the viewer to engage with it. So having the quiz question in here was almost non-negotiable, because this is a call to action, right? And it makes it a lot of fun because the call to action comes with a gift, right? For a free coffee card. We love that. Is it Starbucks? Were you offering Starbucks or Dunkin'?
I probably will end up with Duncan.
I know Starbucks is really expensive.
And next time I'll do the raffle at the end. Not every answer, not everybody.
Yes, I very much agree with you. I think that that will be fine as well. I like the raffle too, because then you're not coughing up as much
With
as
raffle,
much
you
money.
first of all, you save money, and second, you can involve those people again and email to them again.
Yes, I very much agree. I think that's awesome. I really do. This is a great design. And we did what we talked about, right? So now I have a duplicate that's ready for her to go, because now this is now a template. Now her design is a template. This was our initial design. Now we have a duplicate down here that's all ready for November, right? So now when the November Raw report is, she can go through and choose the elements. She loves the article and the picture, very cool. She loves the quiz. The only thing that will stay is the header and her signature and some of the other elements, but it is a template that she can use over and over again. So awesome. Good job, Mila. Love it. Before we end for today, I wanted to know again, does anybody have any questions, any help with anything? If not, we will move on over to our, where is it? Our spinny doodad. Let me share that screen as well. Down here, and then I
So,
will
Farah,
share.
while you're sharing that, I actually have something for
Yes.
all of you who attended today, and I'm going to put this in the chat. I have the November Raw Report links ready for you. They're going to go out later today, but you can get a head start on them. So look in the chat, and good luck.
Thank you so much, Sergio. That's so cool.
Woohoo.
Milu, you can get started today. Love it. Wonderful. So I'm going to just check again. I know we lost a few people. I just went around. Where did it go? I know we lost a few people, but that is okay. No worries about that. Okay, so we're good. If you don't see your name, let me know, or forever hold your peace. Diane, I think I got you and I added it to your name. Sorry. And let us spin. Woo! So the gift card provided by Palm Beach Mortgage Group, who could not join us today, will be going to Miss Yvette Blanco of West Palm Beach. I know we lost her. However, that is all I have for you today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the class, and we will see you next month. Bye.